opportunity. Hey, Barry, talk for me for a second.
Hi, it's Barry Sonnenfeld, and I'm here with Joel and Ethan Coen.
Lovely. And Joel?
Hello, I'm here with Barry Sonnenfeld.
Lovely. And Ethan?
I, too, am here with Barry Sonnenfeld.
Chopped liver.
This kind of sounds like, what's my time?
Yeah.
Sounds like a hostage situation.
A hostage situation?
I'm going to flip. So, Ethan, was this just you and me, or was this all of us?
No, this was the two of us, because I remember picking up that piece of tire somewhere and schlepping it around until we could find a picturesque place to put it.
The world is full of complainers. The fact is, nothing.
So after we were done shooting, Ethan and I went down to Midland, Odessa, Texas to shoot some opening footage with short rolls of the film, which is why it's so grainy and crappy. Joel couldn't come with us because we couldn't afford 3 tickets, and Ethan knew the camera better than Joel did.
Well, judging by the grain, I'm not sure that you did know the camera better than I did.
I may have gone a little hard on that filter there.
Oh, the
And
grid.
this was shot on the Palisades Parkway
That's right.
in New York about 3 or 4 months after we finished most of the photography in Texas.
Gave me a little Pearl Hunt 38 for our first anniversary.
How many hours did it take us to rig the camera to the front of the car?
With a piece of plywood. So this is inside a garage
In Texas.
in Texas. The prop woman who we fired after this shot was sitting on the roof of the car with
Hudson
a
sprayer.
Hudson sprayer, and this is shot inside a Fiat. We chose that car specifically because it allowed the 2 actors to be very close together, unlike most of the other cars we used in the film.
And also because it had a hatchback, so we could put the camera. We weren't big on rigging.
No, that's right. The camera's in the back of the car, and those headlights are 2 Inkies on a dolly that the grip is dollying past them inside the garage, and then they would turn the light off and dolly back to the beginning, and then we would do it again and again.
Originally, this scene was written to take place in fog, remember?
Yes.
And we couldn't, that technology was beyond us at this point. Getting someone on the roof with a Hudson sprayer seemed a lot easier than fogging up the interior of this.
Now this next shot, that's a Volvo. That's not the Fiat, nor is it the...
And now we're, once again, the exterior is a different car.
Yeah, that exterior is his main car, which was an Oldsmobile, if I'm not mistaken. So far we've already used 3 cars for Ray's car.
I guess we decided early on not to be wusses and not to fill anything.
Yeah, no, I lit everything with a foot candle meter instead of a light meter. So that's a very specific thing that would literally show just each little measurement of light. So there's very little light here. And this looks, the little sparkly things surprise me. Did we go to an actual motel
No, this
for
was
this?
yes, it was. It was the largest motel room we could find, actually. It was, the Heart of Texas Motel outside of Austin.
We had the term for it, high, wide, and stupid.
High, Wide, and Stupid, which we got from Penny Marshall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on Big, we shot a lot of high, wide, and stupid shots.
Isn't Fran soft?
Yeah, but don't blame me for that. I wasn't the camera,
Focus puller?
although it is the job of the operator, too.
Yeah, I'm still here.
I was the camera operator, and I wasn't very good. In fact, I rarely stopped the cameras. I created a cutting pattern by my bad operating.
Yeah.
Then, didn't we see Getz's underwear and had to crop the shot?
Oh, it's one of those really good operating things where you got caught on Getz's underwear and
Right, yes.
Yeah.
tipped up.
We chose this place because it gave us there was a window there between the back room of the bar and the actual main bar area through that window, which we liked.
I think this is the most colorful film we ever did.
Yes, it certainly
Either
is.
together or separately.
What was done here on the in the bar was designed by Jane Muskie.
Well, a lot
I
of
mean,
neon.
most of the production design budget went to neon.
It's true. And neon's very bright, and I didn't know you couldn't dim it, so sometimes you'll see a lot of neon flicker, and then I figured it out. So sometimes when you don't see flicker, you'll see neutral density gels just hanging over the neon, so it was a choice of two very weird options. I wouldn't say the palette was consciously chosen in advance. Did we consciously choose?
You know, that's interesting. Every movie that we've done subsequently, I think there has been sort of a general palette that's sort of been gone over with the production designer in terms of, I mean, literally getting the palette in front of you. This one was not done that way, and I think, you know, just kind of, I mean, the fact that we were using a lot of neon in the bar, the fact that it was in the bar, it's true, it's more, the colors are more, and also, what did we shoot
More
this
garish.
on?
It was a stock called 93, 5293, which was a new stock then, which was their faster stock. The other thing is, I think none of us shoot close-ups this tight anymore. The close-ups on this movie were, I think, uncomfortably tight. This is the beginning of us realizing that it was impossible to get John Getz's face in focus. No matter what we did, no matter how we tried, we were incapable of getting him in focus.
We had an intrinsically soft face. And it was before Woody Allen did a movie where a guy was soft, right?
Yeah, the whole movie. Even his dog is soft. So this is the shot everyone remembers because the camera dollies over the table.
In a
And then backs
completely
down again, so-
unmotivated way.
We had dolly tracks here and armed a piece of wood over the table and the camera's facing that way.
Van Brooks just went out that way.
No sweat, wasn't too busy. You missed a good one, though.
Now, didn't we hire short people to make the dumpster look
Yes,
bigger?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so we went out of our way to hire short people because the dumpster wasn't particularly
Couldn't get a big enough dumpster.
So instead of getting a big dumpster, we just got short people. Call me crazy. There's a great moment where we accidentally, Hedaya makes a loud sound, and it frightens a fly, and you'll see it get electrocuted, at which point the sound mixer said we had to go again because it was ruining the take.
Speaking of color, oh my God. Yeah.
What are you saying, Heath?
Well, you know, it's.
Not going to fire me, I might as well quit.
And then
Well,
there's.
yeah, but he's motivated by this light, and Getz is motivated by a light that's off camera that's giving him a different color. He's
What
not
light would that be, Barry?
probably, it should have been in the shot. Then it would have been motivated. It's one of the few unmotivated lights because I got it out of the shot. But no, see, it's totally different lighting on purpose. Heath.
I guess we were very excited about colored light and lighting through gels.
Yeah, you know, we were young and inexperienced. I think we use a lot of Congo blue, which has a transmission rate of 3%. But here comes a dead fly.
Yeah, one of those choking close-ups you were talking about.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what we were thinking. We shot a lot with a 75. This is before we learned the joy of wide-angle lenses.
Yeah.
It's someone else. And what's really going to be funny.
This movie is shot much more with longer lenses than we normally use. A lot of this was shot with, I think it was an 85 millimeter, very wide open at 1.9. I would each day ask the operator what the lens opened up to, and that's what I would shoot at.
She came back here for you. That's what's fucking funny.
There it is.
Is there a single over-the-shoulder in this movie?
You know, over the shoulders were hard for me. In retrospect, that kind
Hey,
of, yeah.
sort of.
Nice, yeah.
See how it motivated the pan over?
Yeah.
Barry let us pan in that
I
shot.
let it.
That's as much as you ever panned.
I'm not a big believer in panning. I think it's a lazy approach to filmmaking. So yeah, those are two short people.
Boy,
Marty.
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
space
something
there.
you can do there. No.
as Chivo would say, let's break it up with a little art. Now this is interesting, Barry.
Yeah?
Fran's side.
Yeah? Are you
The
gonna
lamp
pick on
is
me?
over on this side.
Yes.
lamp
You
is
always
here.
want to motivate. I'll explain that to you.
Yes.
The short side of a face is always the side you want to light on. If I-
Regardless of where you put the lamp.
Yes, have you seen the opening shot of Miller's Crossing, by the way,
Yes.
where Gabe Byrne is sitting next to a lamp and the other side of his face is... See, I wanted to make her beautiful, and the way you do that is you always like the short side. Who's not to say that she has a lamp on one side...
stronger lamp
and
on the other side,
and a
yes,
20
absolutely.
or a 1K on the other side.
Uh-huh.
So you always want to light for beauty and not for accuracy. Look, her main light just switched.
Wait, did it?
Yeah. Oh, God, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll see now she's mainly lit from this
Oh,
side,
yeah,
you see?
right.
Because it's a prettier way to go. And who would notice that except unappreciative directors and producers, really?
Yeah, there we go.
That
Oh,
makes
I accidentally got her lighting on the correct side with the lamp.
but not him.
But still, I also don't like how dark her little eye socket is. I wouldn't have done that again. Oh, that's kind of motivated, lighting-wise. Now you'll point out that this light is different than that light? Is that where this session is going? Because I can talk about some of the acting. If you'd
And the
like.
writing?
Now this shot, the dolly is actually outside of the building, and the camera is on a long stick with a wheel, and we're pulling along the stick, and I'm just trying to hold on to the long stick that's holding this camera up. But
This
reason
house
is-
was so small, the house we shot in, that the AD, when we first showed it to her, told us that it
she
was
didn't want to
essentially
rain on our...
unshootable. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true, we didn't know what we were doing. We shot in spaces that looked right to us when we scouted them, but were much too small to shoot in any sane way.
So this is a series of, we set this up early because eventually you'll see. So while we lacked in discussion about color and that kind of stuff, we made up for with, we shot that in reverse. We
This
shot
is so
at
ugly.
sunset.
Yeah.
Well,
Why
it's
didn't we
because
get
of
rid
the
of that?
bad dissolve. It's because it's an optical, because you wouldn't A and B the negative.
No, I'm talking about the sign in the background. There's a really vivid,
Oh, that orange thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So we shot to sunset first and just hung around a little bit until night.
Hey, we're getting pretty wide. This is exciting.
Yeah, we're getting wide and we're getting towards the stuff where we shot in East Hampton. Let's pick
Yeah.
out our East Hampton shots. In the backyard of 15A North Main Street. This is a little, I would darken that now.
Yes.
Is this where I fell asleep while operating? And
No, that was where Tom Prophet fell asleep.
Oh, with this shot, weren't we talking about the conformist restaurant?
Oh, yeah. You'll see the Venetian blinds move.
The shadow, the light
The
source is
shadow
moving.
moves during the shot, which was something we got from the conformist.
When we go outside, this is East Hampton.
That's
Not
not
this
East
one.
Hampton. The finger break,
That
that's
is,
East Hampton. That's not East Hampton.
That's East
East Hampton, not East Hampton.
Barry, you want to talk about the
Yeah,
upcoming?
well, I'm a sympathetic vomiter. If I see, smell, or hear vomiting, I throw up. So I filmed that shot
And then
immediately threw up.
leapt off the dolly and took a few steps and threw up.
Joel then told the sound mixer, Peter Curlin, on the second take to mic me instead of Danny Hedaya, because Danny wasn't really throwing up, and I really was.
The mixer was Lee Orloff.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Peter was Boom.
Peter was a boom man, you're right, Orloff.
All right, let's back up.
Yeah, here's good.
So this big wide shot that's coming up here was the camera on a 2x4, in the middle of a 2x4 with two people on each end, just running with the 2x4, and it was at a 9.8 lens.
You got to be kind of wide, or it's unbearably bouncy.
But the wide angle, the extreme wide angle nature of the lens takes out most of the bump in the camera, and it was something that we'd learned from Sam Raimi, who used it to great effect and quite a lot on The Evil Dead.
He called it the shaky cam.
It was a very kind of poor man's steady cam.
You know, Joel, Ethan, and I talk about how if we reshot Blood Simple now, we could do it for 10 times the amount, and it wouldn't be any better. But now that would have been a shot you would now use a techno crane for, instead of two guys running with a board. Now, this is supposed to be at sunrise, but of course we shot it all day long, so now it's not looking very sunrisey anymore.
Well, that's a little warm.
Yeah, but not this. That's pretty bad. And you know, but now I'm just trying to light anything to kind of make it look like sunrise. Now we're at, what's that area called? Is that above Lake Austin?
Yes.
Again, way too tight a close-up for nowadays. We should talk about Tom Profit, our key grip, who was extraordinary. I mean, this was probably a 200-foot long track down a very steep hill that he designed. He had block and tackles and pulleys, because, you know...
And a counterweight, because we were tracking downhill.
Downhill, and otherwise it would run away and go into the lake. Again, this was a scene we had to shoot over many, many, many hours, yet try to make it consistently look like sunset. This plays an important role coming up.
Tom Profit, well, maybe we should tell him how he came across Tom. He was a big L.A. grip who decided to leave L.A., move away, because, I don't know, he's kind of a survivalist.
His wife's astrologist said L.A. was going to have an earthquake, so he moved to Austin and started a sheet rock business.
And when we came to town, we needed a grip, and Tom was going out of his mind with boredom, not having worked for a couple of years. So he signed on to do it.
But it would be like getting Leonardo DiCaprio to suddenly be in your first movie. I mean, he was the Leonardo of grips.
He was. No, it's true. We wouldn't have done half this stuff without a serious grip.
No.
Like Tom.
So Emmett often attracted flies. And I think part of the tension of this whole scene is watching the fly that Emmett totally kind of ignores.
Now, we shot this all one day and a night, right? So this is night all lit.
Yeah, it's full night now.
It's full night. I tried to light it a little bit. Maybe I should have had a little bit more light out there. I don't know.
He's right. I do.
Barry vomited after the first day.
Yeah, I vomited 18 times.
There's the fly.
There's a fly. I vomited 18 times on the movie, usually sending Ethan to get me mints. What happened is, you know, again, none of us had ever worked on a movie before. I had never been a DP on anything but industrials, and Ethan worked at Macy's, and Joe was, you know, an assistant editor. So the fact that we got any sort of footage that looked like a movie was
a surprise to all of us.
A surprise, and so nerve-wracking that my stomach couldn't take it.
That's a nice pull. Emmett is always nice and sharp.
Mm-hmm.
This was a real location on 6th Street, right?
Austin, yeah.
6th Street, yeah, above the Pecan Street Cafe.
Come, I show you around.
Sound was dicey because there was a working restaurant underneath.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me now that we chose a location with a working restaurant underneath.
This was the first day of shooting, and dailies were 10 points, which was the equivalent of 2 f-stops brighter than this, and it looks so much like a bad porn that it depressed the hell out of all of us. And I had them printed down to where I thought it should have been, and suddenly it looked better than this, like this. A little too blue? What do you think, boys?
Yeah.
He's in the house.
Well, you know, it's that Congo blue again.
Yeah, it's exciting lighting through gels.
Yeah. Our storyboards were so elaborate. There was one that was a floor plan that showed where the camera and the actors were for each single shot. Another corner was like a normal storyboard, and on the bottom were an area for comments like car lighting effect or rain. We thought we knew it, like we were so...
Well, this kind of works as an over.
Yeah, you'd have to call that an over.
Yeah. I was just shooting over the shoulder of one person talking to the person you're favoring, whose face you're seeing. So you kind of connect the two in the frame.
Well, it's hard to shoot overs when everyone's close-ups were shot incredibly too tight.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Here's something I learned working with Joel and Ethan. If I was thinking of a setup, if I wanted it to be that or tighter, I would show it to Joel, and if I wanted it to be that size or wider, I'd show it to Ethan. Ethan always preferred things slightly wider, and Joel always preferred things slightly tighter. At least that was the case on Raising Arizona. I like blue often in lighting, especially mercury vapor blue, which is a blue-green. I tend not to like to mix color temperatures. I think I learned not to like it by looking at Blood Simple and seeing what it looked like. But I don't like people to wear blue in wardrobe. I find, especially like extras and stuff, because I feel your eye just gravitates to the color blue. It's the most sensitive layer on film cameras, not so on video. So whenever there's blue in a scene, your eye goes right to it. So especially as it relates to wardrobe and stuff, I avoid it. And I really normally avoid mixing color temperatures. I like a very narrow palette. And again, it must be because of seeing my work on Blood Simple.
And we did this ambitious for us track around the house coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Which was handheld.
Handheld, and didn't we see various lights and crew people in it?
We saw one crew person. It looked to me like Dave Fredericks, the focus puller, so I wonder who's with you with the camera.
I think we were too wide to get anyone to be able to move with me.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, it starts here.
It starts here. This is handheld.
Handheld inside the house going, there's the person right there.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the focus puller. We can't figure out why he wasn't behind the camera.
But it might explain why the shot's out of focus. Still, I'm impressed. Look how beautifully lit they are.
Oh, there's a long lens.
Yeah, this is like a 200 or 300. You can start to see there's more money in Emmett's pockets from his...
per diem?
Per diem. That's per diem talking right there. Not per diem. We paid him his whole salary in
cash.
Didn't he get like $4,000 a week or something?
Yeah.
You owe me some money.
If you're fucking with me, you'll regret it.
Now, there's Danny's hand with a broken finger. This was what we had to reshoot because we forgot to put the splint on,
We
right?
did this scene and then realized the continuity person. Did we even have a continuity person?
Yeah, Andreas Levin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Came up to us and pointed out that we'd shot the scene without the splint on Danny's finger.
Now, when you say a continuity person, what Joel and Ethan do is they take the smartest PA in pre-production and say, you're the continuity person. That's how we met Tom Johnson.
Tom Johnson, yeah.
And Johnson's done every film with you guys since in practice.
Yes,
right?
because the continuity person is supposed to tell you you should be wearing a splint before you shoot the scene.
It's taken care of.
I was trying to figure out where the red light came from, because there's all this magenta stuff, but then I figured it out.
Yeah.
If you watch the whole scene,
Don't say that.
because I worked with the color timer and I was going to change it magenta,
Yeah.
But she found somewhere there was a red light. And convinced me not to worry about it. Because look, there's all this magenta, but I don't remember where we found a red light, but somewhere we did to justify that. You know, American Friend had just come out, and Joel and I were at the same party, and somehow we found out we were both film students. We were just blown away by the look of that movie.
He also there are some very beautiful and evocative but unmotivated camera moves in An American Friend, which I think also kind of, I remember, you know, there's like boom ups, the sequence that he did in Orly Airport, you know, where you're sort of, and you go, where is that from? But they're beautiful, and they always felt sort of appropriate to what was going on in the scene, even if you didn't quite know why. We were definitely not in the camp where every camera move has to be motivated. We weren't in that strict kind of, you know, Puritan mode of the camera only moves if the character is moving, or to emphasize, you know, sometimes it can move just because it moves, because it's a beautiful time to move the camera, or the shot will be beautiful and it won't.
Well, there's a
That's a Storaro, Bertolucci thing also, and also a big Scorsese thing, obviously.
We talked about fantasy-wise hiring Scorsese to play the Dan Hedaya role, but we were nervous that whenever we would decide to put the camera somewhere, we'd look over and Scorsese would be like shaking his head no. Scorsese was another big influence in terms of, you look at Mean Streets and what the camera does in that movie that has nothing to do with what the characters are doing.
He looks stupid now.
The dead fish, and Barry, how'd you get the light there to get the kick?
Yes, well, we spent some time on that.
Yeah, we did.
Trying to get the kick on the lighter,
right.
Which was a big
Without
pain in the
being
ass.
unflattering to the fish.
Yes.
And, you know, we shot this whole movie, not including the Hamptons unit, in 42 days. It was 7 6-day weeks. Or was it 7 7-day weeks?
It was alternating
6-day
5 and
weeks.
6 day.
It was alternating 5 and 6-day weeks.
Again, I don't know. We wanted the light sources, the neon, and the.
Yeah, everywhere in the movie, really, there you see the light sources, unless you don't see the light sources.
Unless you don't, right. There's a lot of blue back there. We added dust to the, here's
It's a lot of Fuller's Earth stuff.
Yeah, coming up are some bad lighting things that are done for the sake of the shot more than the continuity of the scene. When Getz's boots go up to the door to open it, you'll see a lot of dust and backlight that doesn't make sense, but gives us a cool shot. Again, you'll notice he's not really in focus.
Yeah, and the magenta kick for no reason.
Well, yeah, there was.
Well, there's magenta from around the window there.
Yeah. But the window's in front of him, not behind him. So see all that dust. You'll see when he opens the door, it implies it's really bright there to give us all that backlit dust. Yet the room itself is incredibly dark, and he's soft.
Other than that,
it's a great shot. Yeah.
We would have done, I think, everything differently.
Probably everything differently.
And not as good.
Yes.
You would have hired Roger?
It all seems a little stupid, but it has a kind of stupid brio, maybe, just because we were, keen on what we were doing and didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, right. It doesn't
have to make sense, but it should kind of look good, which we sometimes
another example of that is after the movie was done, I met in some context Nestor Almendras, who was talking about the scene at the end where the light comes through the bullet holes, and he said, "Of course, light doesn't behave that way," but he loved the scene, so it was. And he of course, he said, I do that. I would never get away with that. But he liked again, as Ethan was saying, there was some kind of idiotic charm to it that.
Thank you.
that he really liked. So yeah, we probably would have done it differently, but it probably wouldn't have it might have been, it would have been something else and maybe not as interesting.
And more expensive. We were doing everything we did on purpose, and we had a plan, and we wanted it to look very much like the way it looked. And in fact, we all got a lot of credit from critics and stuff because it looked not like a handheld first time sort of by the seat of the pants movie. It was very anally thought out.
Yes, well, that's true. What we weren't doing was going into it thinking it'll look like what it looks like. Who cares? You know, it's more about the staging, or it's more about, you know, we were all interested in the actual sort of photographic look of the movie and each scene in particular. That was always important to us.
I mean, an example of that pulled back the shot the beginning of the shot we just saw, I think we started moving before the actor did.
Yeah, but that's a good thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Would we do that again?
Again,
just didn't cut it properly.
What we just went by was an insert of his hands releasing from the, okay, so that it's true that there were a lot of inserts in this movie and a lot of little close physical details that were kind of built into the idea of the movie somehow.
Yeah, I don't even know why. It just, yeah, like saying
but
this is
sometimes
important.
it's to get out of another shot.
But that, for instance, is something we do a lot less now.
Inserts?
Those types of inserts.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, that was where the red light came from in that scene 2 scenes ago.
Well, we saw...
well, we were tracking low with Getz there.
Yeah, we didn't see the source, though.
No. The source was off camera.
This was another getting the kick on the gun.
That took forever.
It was a big wide shot.
And again, there's no rule from shot to shot. Some people want to, you know, have a scene only shot with long lenses or wide lenses, and they have to match from angle to angle. And
you know, Dr. Strangelove is something that appealed to all of us.
It's all our
yes
choking low
yes
close-ups.
The very low, the sort of Baroque angles on the close stuff of the characters in that movie.
And by the way, as Kubrick in that movie, he had no rules about lenses, about lighting.
No, that's true.
The scene where the army is attacking the base,
right,
Burpleson Air Force Base, he shot during the day.
And handheld.
And even though it's a night scene, just because he knew no one cared and it was easier. And
yes, that's
and
true.
It's so tight on him, and then it's so wide on other people. There were no rules in that movie.
I mean, that shot that we just did is sort of interesting, looking back on it. Right? Can we back up a little bit? Again, these are kind of ideas that we were trying things then that I don't think we would do now, but they're interesting, the fact that I'm going to where he's coming up. Now, the booming down with that coat as he's ballowing it up and starts wiping up the blood is probably something we would never do now.
Right.
You know? The idea of doing that shot is really a little bizarre, even sort of thinking back on it.
Yeah.
But it was the type of thing we were kind of experimenting with. It was hard to hold the focus on the jacket. It was, you know, it's complicated technically, just even though it doesn't look like such a complicated shot.
It's sort of in limbo, so you don't really quite understand what's going on. But
there was, you know, all the it kind of goes back to the hand on top of we were trying to do things that kind of, you know, the movement of the camera or the closeness of the shot or was sort of bringing you into the scene in a different way than we do now. This tracking behind him also, you know, as he's kind of following the blood trail.
Shoulder.
It's an over the shoulder.
You know, the thing is...
But the shots were kind of, you know, they had they were, in a weird sort of way, they were more sort of conceptual.
Well, it's kind of connected. It's connected to what Barry was saying about the lenses. We use whatever the hell lens for the shot as opposed to having a consistent focal length for the scene, much less the movie.
Yes.
Which we, as Barry said, there was never that kind of consistency. And which I must say, the 3 DPs that we've worked with since are much more interested in than you ever were.
Yes.
And Still not. I think just like the lighting, the lens is the lens you need for the shot. And I will say that this, in a weird way, is a precursor to Raising Arizona, in that both movies, the camera is a character in the show.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And it's a very self-conscious camera, both in this movie and in Raising Arizona.
Right.
The preceding shot was another big piece of rigging for the grip, kind of traveling with the car.
Grip rigging. In
Following
fact, if we
the
go
car
back,
out of the,
if we can go back to that shot.
The high angle over the back of the car.
This shot, what you can't see is there's 400 feet of track that we erased digitally in this new Criterion version. If you look at an older version, you'll see how we did the entire shot, because there's all the track literally in the shot.
This, again, is just the camera strapped to a 2x4 on the front of the camera, basically strapped to the bumper of the car.
Bumper of the car having nothing to do with a camera rig or a camera car. Right now there would be grips and electrics. Didn't Ethan, was that then, or was that?
I think that was there.
That was there?
Definitely Texas. Yes, that was Texas.
Because of the reflectors in the road, you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get those little reflectors.
That was in Texas, yeah.
But like this shot, the car's not moving. We're just out on the street or in the stage, and we're just bumping the car up and down, and we're moving a couple of lights.
Barry would cue the electricians for the kind of light pans simulating the motion, Julie and Joey.
So here's Doyle Wilson, who paid. We needed a way to hide lights, so Doyle Wilson, whose house we used, paid for these billboards if we would
put his name
on them. That's why they say Doyle Wilson. Also, Criterion took a 4K HMI out of there. There was a big shot there. Now, coming up is a scene that we never would have shot this way if we had money, but I couldn't figure out how to backlight all the rows of furrows of soil. So I actually front lit it, just hid the light. That's coming up in a few shots. A lot of blue light.
And we didn't care about Getz going from shadow to light, shadowed moonlight to unshadowed.
That could happen if you walk out of the 4K.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's another, you're just talking about dynamic foreground.
Well, he's being lit by the headlights, and he's being lit by moonlight. It's quite obvious.
But it's also, this was shot in a different location, I believe.
I didn't think we shot
some Danny of it crawling outside. In a couple of places, at least a couple of places.
This was shot in the backyard.
Right.
So this is a combination of, like, at least 3 different locations. Just because, we were working long days, we'd have to quit, but we'd still be owing ourselves shots. We'd be away from wherever we'd been shooting the bulk of the scene.
We would know we'd be low angle enough that it wouldn't matter, that you're just against darkness. Part of the reason there's a lot of low angle stuff is because I think that low angle is really dynamic because you're close to the ground. So you sense movement because there's always something happening underneath the lens that is the ground moving forward. I can't believe we could afford hiring a truck.
Yeah, no, the truck was a big production thing. The upcoming shot is interesting. I remember it really is handheld on John.
Yeah.
And you thought it was the 25.
We thought we were putting on a 25
but it was an
lens.
85.
It was an 85, which is why it's so bouncy. But when we got the dailies, we liked it.
Right. Yeah.
So this is literally a case where we didn't know what lens was on the camera.
Yeah. And then, so active, it's kind of energetic. We thought, that's kind of good, although I'm surprised because it's a 25.
Yeah. So this is a shot, normally you would have, if we were doing this now, we'd have huge scissor lifts and have a big crane in the background sort of lighting all these, but instead, what I did is, because we couldn't afford any of that stuff, and it makes no sense, and I would never do it now, but you'll see in the next shot, when he starts to bury that the furrows are all front lit for no apparent reason, but I took enough light off the bottom that it almost looks like it's edge lit from behind. So this was actually on location. I'm sure that wasn't Dan. But so here, this is all actual light from in front.
Which makes no sense. It
Makes
falls
no
off as
sense,
it approaches the
but
source.
it makes it feel like it's backlit because it's just the very edge is lit. But it's nothing we would ever do now, because now we would have big lights and budgets. And coming up is a sequence where we both buried Dan Hedaya in Texas and Ethan in East Hampton.
Yeah, as soon as you...
That's East, no, that's
No, I think that's Texas. As soon as you can't see Danny, it's me.
And the reason was because you guys wanted an over the legs as opposed to just point of view, I think.
Well, also, I think, again, it was, we didn't get everything that we wanted to get when we were there, and we just, blew it off. We owed ourselves stuff.
Well, that's kind of nice, I must say, letting John and leave frame, enter frame.
Yeah.
I don't know, we haven't talked about sound at all, but it was kind of, I don't know what it was, something about having this whole, whatever it is, 15, 20 minutes without dialogue seemed, I don't know, interesting to us. Just following the story without, in a self-conscious way, having dialogue.
Here's a Michelangelo shot, which was totally storyboarded and designed. He was in focus for a split second.
He was in focus there.
Yeah, the stuff is nice. I don't know about Danny's side, but John's, again, the edge lighting without filling.
Well, he's underground. He shouldn't have any light.
No, yeah, there wouldn't be any light sweeping around the top of the bowl.
So now,
This is all still Texas. But now, this next cut is going to be East Hampton.
There we go.
That's East Hampton, and that's Ethan. That's Ethan.
It was interesting because after we wanted to get a shot after he slams this down where the earth is no longer moving. And,
you might want to stop those.
You might want to stop. Where the earth is no longer moving, and I said, let's get some shots where Ethan, just be still down there.
By the way, those are Joel's legs in the foreground.
And
and they heard my voice going, what? And he said, they bellowed, just be still. We need some without the earth moving. And I said, then.
Hey, Joel. No, you said, hey, Joel. And I said, ugh. Joel said, ugh, cut. And we dug out a little space, and we just saw Ethan's little eyes.
Yes, what do you want?
And Joel said, Eth, what do you want? And he said,
if it's not moving, do I have to be down here?
And I said yes, but Joe, being the brother, said, all right.
Oh, God.
All right. Because then you had to let him out, and then you had to put the dirt back. It would have been so much faster if we left Ethan down there. But since it was just my backyard, I guess, and there was no crew except for Joe, Ethan, and myself, and an Ian Arrow 1K kit.
Yeah, these shots, but yes, that's the entire crew was us, and yes,
that was the three of us.
The three of us shooting this stuff. There was no crew, so this was about 40, probably about 40 or 50 shots that are in the movie.
That morning shot was a total accident.
It's
the fog.
That's the sort of. So that's the close version side of it. There's a wider one.
We were up on a scissors, right? We didn't have
scissor lift. We didn't have a crane.
When he gets in the car.
Yeah, we got kind of lucky with morning ground fog.
That fog. And you can see it's take 2.
Huh? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you're right. Did we rake that out?
Yeah, we re-raked it.
I didn't remember
see,
that.
this is pre-digital when you simply would have replaced this.
With the first take.
Yeah. We had to get rid of the tire tracks.
So this is me sitting on the hood of the car. The car is, and see these birds?
Nice.
And an amazing lucky thing is about to happen, which is You then see their shadow.
You know, that low angle sort of bumper stuff was very much inspired by the second Mad Max movie, The Road Warrior, which we saw, I think, right before we started shooting the movie.
I think we had a laser disc of it and watched it over and over again and noticed how a lot of stuff, like the truck was barely moving, but the camera moved so fast, and we learned a lot from watching that movie over and over again in slow motion, actually.
This boom down is on a scissor lift, right?
And you can see when we get to the end, it just stutters to a stop.
If you were making a crane.
If you were making a real movie, it would be on a crane.
This is a construction lift that's not meant to sort of accommodate a camera move.
Which is all fine when it's moving, but starting and stopping is not acceptable. But
we brought the stuff
you'll
in
also
for
see
foreground.
that there's no wires connected to the phone, but you sort of see it come limping to a stop.
That was the first day of shooting.
Oh, was it? After the strip bar?
Each morning we would call the lab, which was Duart, and speak to the head of dailies, which was Don Donaghy, to ask how the dailies look, because we were shooting at very low light levels. And Don Donaghy would say things to us like, when the monster breaks the walrus, and somehow I knew that meant that things were okay. The monster being M.M. Walsh and the walrus being the piggy bank. So it was an interesting method of communication.
He didn't know what the movie was about. He was just responding to the mute dailies that he saw.
We also had some problems early with a camera we were using. It was the first generation of a new camera called the Arri 3. And Aeroflex had to send their technician down because we were getting double images of everything. And his name was Yui. And we showed the footage to Yui and we said, well, what do you think, what's the problem? And Yui's response was, it seems unrealistic. He aims a gun high, but the bullet hole is low. And we said, no, what's the problem with the dailies? Why are there double images of everything? And Yui said, this I cannot help you with. So that was our shooting.
First he's dead, then he's not dead?
First he's dead, then he's not dead? I don't understand.
That was printed in reverse. Which is why it has that exploding grain.
Barry, we would not do these walls again.
Yes, you would. You would for $750,000. They look like painted flats. You would plaster them and add some patina and not have blue. They'd be sort of greenish.
I just want to let you know that everything's all right. Took care of everything.
He'd be in focus.
He'd be in focus and wouldn't be exactly their tone.
What do you mean?
I know about it, Abby.
And perhaps Fran wouldn't be wearing that particular nightie.
Yes.
Can we not only pick on lighting?
Is it cold in here?
Well, what happened?
As we talked about before the first day of shooting, I had never been on a feature film set. I had shot some movies at NYU, student films. And then I shot industrials for Reeve Teletape and some documentaries, but I had never shot a narrative movie where you had to have anything go consistent from shot to shot.
I haven't done it.
The whole movie, I think, in a weird way, on purpose, is claustrophobic. All the locations are very small and tight, like Ray's home.
I don't even know if no, that's very true. And I don't know if we talked about it this way, but we all really liked. It's a totally different movie, obviously. Once Upon a Time in the West, where the choking close-ups and everything is really somehow portentous because of how tight it is.
I don't think that was why we did this, though.
Well, it was partly to get close in on the eyes here and the. Yeah, we haven't been talking about sound very much, but there's Mexican music that's playing in the background here that was from a little we discovered a little label called Monitor Records. Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah, which happened to be headquartered at 280
Yes,
Riverside.
which we then found out had a little office in the building that I lived in New York. And they again, with no money, they licensed a lot of music to us for this. That was
Don't they look like animatronic people, little people in the...
Yeah, well, that's when you go with a very wide lens, and this might have been like a 14 or something, everything starts to look like a miniature. Speaking about sound, don't you have that sound that Skip created, that mooing sound in almost all your movies?
It is in all of the movies, yeah.
Yeah. We're coming on up to a really cool, complicated shot that seems easy, but is very complicated, which is Fran looking down at all the stuff, and she's on a rig.
Now this is green, Barry.
Yeah, now it's green. I know, I did that on purpose, I think. You know, so when we did the commentary.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there, that's why it's green.
No, don't pretend it's motivated, please.
It was
That fluorescent created those shadows. Anyway, Fran and the camera are both on the same rig. So we moved the rig through space. And luckily, the first time we did it, I didn't add any interactive lighting, but luckily there was an insurance claim from that bad Aeroflex. So we were able to reshoot it and learn from our mistakes.
What we wanted was a shot that started with a close-up of Fran in this environment, in the bar, and ended, without cutting, ended with her head hitting a pillow that had a kind of vertiginous, weird quality to it.
And now you would...
So it starts here.
Right there.
It starts there.
So it's with a very
She
wide
looks at the
lens.
fish.
Now it would all be blue screen. She'd just stand there against blue screen, and we'd have a background plate that moves through space.
And here it starts. So
here it starts.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, it's all part of the same shot, but yeah.
So her and the camera are falling together, and that bed and pillow is
attached to the contraption that we were shooting it on.
Strangely, it looked very close to what Tom Profit's sex machine looked like.
It's true. Another story. You know how they used to have on old movie sets leaning boards for women who were wearing nightgowns that they didn't want to mess up in between. So she was leaning against this thing, but like a leaning board, but it was open from the back of her.
The small of her back
the
up.
small of her back up, so that we could pivot the whole thing
and there's
through
a camera
light.
Here, and they're both going like that.
And a pillow that sort of came up and hit the bottom of her head.
Well, the pillow was always there, so when we dropped that down, the pillow was waiting. But when Tom designed it...
I think there's a Leonardo da Vinci sketch of this device, if you look in his notebooks.
All we know is that Tom, our key grip, said it was very much like a machine he saw in Hustler magazine.
Yeah. Okay, so what it was Tom said at one point, he said, this reminds me of something that I built for my wife, Lorraine. And we said, what is that? And he took out this picture of essentially a sex seat. And he said, I saw a picture of this in Hustler magazine, and they wanted $300 for it. And I thought, $300? I can build this for a couple of bucks out of speed rail.
Which is what grips use. It's pipe. Right.
So then he showed us the picture of the machine. I think he offered to build one for
me and Sweetie.
For Barry. And we said, no, thanks. But then we started thinking, on the other hand, if he can do that, he can probably build something that will accomplish this shot we want to do, where Fran's head comes back and hits the pillow.
And a couple of decades later, we got more use out of it. It's basically where George Clooney's character in Burn After Reading came from. He's a home hobbyist who makes sex machines
exactly
in his
the
basement.
same thing to Fran in that movie, where it says, I saw a picture of it in Hustler magazine, and I thought, why would I pay $200 when I can make it out of... and brings her down in the basement and shows her the sex seat. Tom is no longer with us, I don't believe.
Is he not?
I don't know, but he would be old.
Yes.
He probably won't be listening to the Criterion commentary of Blood Simple.
But he never big leagued you or anybody.
No,
he's
he
a great
didn't.
guy.
He was a great, really classy guy. He was quite old even when we were working with him. And that, a shot that we went by earlier where right before Marty, Danny Hedaya grabs Fran in the house and drags her outdoors, there's a shot where she's looking in the compact and the camera sort of pushes in on her. And we were shooting that shot, and we were shooting it. She had some business, and we were shooting, and then on a cue, he was supposed to move in. And the first time we shot it, he didn't move in, and I looked over and I realized that Tom, who was pushing the dolly at that point, had fallen asleep.
So he had to yell at Dave Fredericks to wake up Tom without a time.
But if you remember the next shot, you stared at me. I used to wear a black hood over my head because I get distracted easily. And we called it the schmata, which is a Yiddish word for rag. But Tom Profit assumed it was an East Coast camera term, so he'd always say, "Where's Barry Schmata?" And I was wearing the schmata, and Joel and Ethan looked over as I tilted down Fran's body. Mm-hmm. And you wondered why I was doing that, and it was because I had fallen asleep at the eyepiece, which was the name that you were going to give me for my
your autobiography. Yes, Asleep at the Eyepiece, the Barry Sonnenfeld story. Again,
this room is probably, what, 12 by 15 or something? It's like really small. And the ceilings were probably 8 feet high.
The thing about small spaces is it looks like you want to shoot there, but once you get the body of the camera in and the 20 crew people and the lights, it's...
There's no space left to stage the scene.
But also, you know, this is before video playback or anything like that, where it took up all that room. That's like you, me, and Ethan just...
Yeah, that's true. There weren't 20 crew people, but...
That's probably a 17 and a half.
You broke into the bar and you wanted to get your money.
So, you want to talk about how this was originally lit with HMIs?
It was originally lit with HMIs, and I didn't know that HMIs in those days had certain windows of speed. You couldn't just shoot slow motion or you would get a flicker. But I didn't know that, so we wanted to shoot slow motion, so we shot at 48 frames a second, which is not...
Slow motion for this shot.
For that shot of the... Newspaper. So everything flickered, and somehow, amazingly, you guys were able to take that flicker out.
But that was sort of a nice transition which we just did, which was the moving shot to linking two locations with the moving camera.
That was my Pan Am thing that says, please wake me for meal service. We thought it was funny at the time. Now it's yellow.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know, for a very low budget movie, we shot longer than most people would have. We had more shooting days. I mean, we spent very little money on, you know, other aspects of the production, on construction, you know, wardrobe, all of those things. You know, we paid everyone virtually nothing. But on the other hand, we were able to shoot longer. We had more shooting days than most people would have on a movie of that budget.
Right. I think we were at 42 days.
So, Barry, you're just sitting on the hood.
I'm just sitting on the hood, and he's making a U-turn. And, you know, a lot of low-budget movies will be in the 20s. But we'll be paying a lot of money to Thomas Hayden Church.
Go forward.
Very low lighting here.
Well, that's a nice shot.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Going into the low angle.
And that's a very traditional move, the pull back to the push in. It's a big shadow. Not motivated by any light that would be in a bathroom.
Well, it's not motivated by the light you see in the bathroom.
Neither. No. Good point. Thank you.
But then we're just about, that's the tip of the iceberg here.
Exactly. Here comes the shot where the lab told me that the monster picking up the walrus looked great. One lesson I learned from the movie is never use a very wide lens in a high, wide, and stupid environment, because it turns the whole image into a miniature.
Barry's apartment in New York City in Washington Heights that shot down the...
Oh, that's right. I went up to my parents' apartment. That's where we used to steal Coca-Cola cans from.
See, now also we would try and put some kind of
lights
light
back
out there.
See, doesn't that look like a miniature?
Yeah.
And it's an enormous bathroom.
How do we do this? This is a little set.
This
right?
is a little set piece built into a garage door in a little warehouse thing outside of Austin.
So we're outside?
We were outside, yes. We're out in the parking lot.
Right.
It's all set. It's really like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's way too big.
Too big and too high.
And there's two pieces. There's a piece of plastic, right, protecting Emmett's.
Right, an outer layer of glass and an inner layer of plexi.
Okay. So there was, can we stop? We should go back there. That shot. There, this shot is the one, that's the one I want to show you. Okay, so his fingers are writhing, but the blade is still, right? So the blade was actually in a little sleeve that he stuck his hand through so that his fingers here could move, but the blade would stay rigid as if it was pinning the hand to the... It was a very kind of a clever little contraption. Now play the shot and you can see how it works. It was a way of making it look real in terms of the blade pinning the hand to the windowsill.
And then here's the famous unmotivated lighting.
Yes, okay, let the second bullet hole come through and then freeze it. Boom, okay, so now there's an inky behind each one of these bullet holes.
Actually, that looks like it might be one.
No, it's two.
Is it?
It's, yeah, you wouldn't have it going in two directions.
Can't have it go that way and that way. So this is the thing that Nestor Almandros was talking about.
I think
that
he
makes
was
no
a judge
sense.
at the Miami Film Festival.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's where I met him. Yep, absolutely. And that's what he was saying is just completely ridiculous in terms of how light works. But that he liked it. Now keep going, and it just.
And he was also the Mr. Motivated Light DP guy. So again, now you got all these different angles going up, going this way, going that way, from theoretically an overhead 25
one overhead
watt
light
bulb.
inside this dimly lit bathroom on the other side.
You know, Catherine Bigelow's first movie, which was a vampire movie, she called me up and asked me if I would shoot it specifically because of that scene.
So yes, that's. But I also think that didn't we shot this once, but the first go round on shooting this scene, I remember the special effects guy who had loaded up the wall with these explosions. But basically what they were was they were little corks that were being blown out by a little explosive charge. Everything was set up to do the scene, and we said, "Are you ready?" And he said, "Yes, don't roll yet. I'm arming them." And as soon as he said, "I'm arming them," they all blew out at once. We had to spend the next 2 hours
waiting,
replastering the wall.
Check out this earlobe action on Emmett there. Ethan, you're like the clear screen policeman. He's got long arms.
That's an animatronic hand because the blade had to actually move.
Yeah, at that point, this was, yes. So we switched out the little rig, and that was a little puppet hand.
This is soon where Joel had to have his first disagreement with Emmett about
I'm not
picking
sure
up
it was
the hat.
the first disagreement, but
That's
yes,
true.
I asked him to pick up his hat on the way out of the bathroom, and for some reason he didn't believe that his guy would do that in that situation. He had a lot of reasons why not, and I sort of tried to give him some reasons why he might. And at the end of the argument, out of frustration, I said to him, Emmett, just do it to humor me. And his reply to that was, I've done this whole fucking movie just to humor you.
And Emmett was only a grouch because I think he enjoyed he enjoyed being
He's
that.
a bit of a curmudgeon, but like all actors, he's, you know, they feel they have to push back to a certain extent if they're not entirely comfortable to protect themselves. I mean, it's very common. He wasn't doing it any more or any more gratuitously than any other actor. He was just trying to make himself comfortable with what he had to do.
That's a nice shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the backlight through the hat was interesting. That's this is New York.
Yeah.
This shot here was all reproduced in New York.
I'm not afraid of you, Marty.
And then we're getting to some stuff. The stuff under the sink was not only, in his point of view, was not only in New York, but I had a terrible cold and made Ethan hold a tissue to my nose while we were filming.
Yeah, his lying on his back to operate really wreaked havoc with your sinus.
Well, man, if I see him, I'll sure give him a message.
Talk about unmotivated lighting, the shot underneath the sink. So that's looking up at their ceiling in their living room.
And then rock and rolling this little drop here to make it stay on there longer. We would play it in reverse, forward and reverse to extend the length of the sort of dancing drip.
Okay.
Wait, you didn't roll director of photography. Right? Okay, never mind. I didn't know I was that far back in the pecking order. I never would have mentioned it.
That used to be, now it's the same.